Welcome back to the Finding Flow podcast. I just want to take a quick second to thank our sponsors, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. They offer some amazing services that can help you better achieve these states of flow by optimizing your health and your wellness. Their services include personal training for general population, for athletes, for just about anybody. They offer pain modalities like massage therapy, laser therapy, yoga, durability classes, and they're experts in nutrition and supplementation. So if you're really looking to take your health and your body and your wellness to the next level, that's the place to be. That's the place to seek out. You can find them at inflowacademy.com. You can find them on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy and on Instagram at Inflow Academy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling.
Everything changes.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Finding Flow podcast here.
What's a Finding Flow podcast?
It's a podcast about how to find your flow.
Sounds interesting. It sounds like a neat idea for a podcast.
I don't know. I think there's two pretty interesting guys that host it.
You gotta meet those guys.
Yeah, pretty cool. What's their names again?
I think there's a Coach Ben.
Coach Ben.
Yeah.
Do you always put Coach in front of your name, even if
no? But since Coach Dan's Coach Dan always refers to me as Coach, so now I feel like it's almost like complimentary. Now I refer to him as Coach Dan, and so now I even refer to myself as Coach Ben.
Well, if you went to that gala on Friday and you were shaking hands, what'd you say?
Is it a gala or a gala?
Gala or a gala? I feel like that could be the same spelling.
Feels good. Not Gaelic.
That's something with Irish, right?
No, that's something you do in prison.
No, but would you introduce yourself as Coach Benjamin Knapp?
I may have to slip in, like a quick Benjamin Knapp from the Inflow Wellness Academy, maybe something like that.
I feel like
and they're like, "Is that French?"
Yeah, I want to get like a PhD just so I can say doctor in front of my name all the time.
Hi, doctor.
Like I'm Dr. Kevin Lowers. Never ever again would I say that I'm Kevin Lowers.
What if you're the
always be hi, I'm Doctor.
What if I'm the Doctor of Love?
Doctor of Love? Do you have a PhD in love?
PhD
or an MD?
In joy. PhD in joy.
PhD in joy. Yeah, it's one of those things. You get that MD in front of your name, and all of a sudden you're a bigwig.
You just get to walk into anywhere you
want.
want.
You're not driving a Grand Caravan if you have an MD.
Sir, did you have a reservation? Benjamin Knapp, PhD.
I'm a doctor.
Dr. Knapp.
Dr. Benjamin.
Oh, right this way, sir.
Yeah.
Table right up in front.
You could if you can put doctor in front of your name, and you can you say you go to school for however long it is, a decade, 10 decades, 20 decades.
Hey, how about this? I'm $750,000 in debt. I must be important.
100%. And it's one of those things where it's like if you are a doctor, you can honestly tell people if they ate dirt. If you went and ate eggshells, you would lose 10 pounds in a month. But you just got only eggshells. That's all you got to eat.
They did that study on. They asked people who they trusted more, and that could include your parents, your teacher, your coach, religious leaders, things like that. 80% of people asked said doctor.
That who they would trust the most.
Who they trust the most in their life.
Is that like a doctor? Sorry, guys, I'm switching my chair out right now.
It's probably pretty loud.
I know. Is that a doctor that's like just coming out, that's kind of fresh new ideas, or is that like the 65-year-old doctor that hasn't read a research paper in 40 years and is still propagating that like you should be eating bread like 6 times a day?
I don't know, the rich one. How about that?
Yeah.
The guy who's got lots of money.
I love the unconventional approach now that you're getting these functional medicine doctors. That's just pretty cool. Like where you're getting these doctors that are coming in and doing all the blood work and then referencing out to other health professionals, because they understand that they can't do it all themselves, and they're taking on lower client loads so that they can spend more time with their clients to try to actually resolve problems instead of just spending enough time to figure out what symptoms they're having and what drugs are going to help with those symptoms. Yeah, it's so cool, man. I think Chris Kresser and then Mark Hyman are two the leading guys in that field. I know Mark Hyman's over. Is it Mark Hyman?
Yeah, Dr. Mark.
Yeah, I think he's over at the Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah, and then he wrote the Blood Sugar Solution.
Yeah. And then Chris Kresser has a really cool book called Unconventional Medicine. That's all it highlights this in depth, just about how your average doctor working say at a hospital has these absolutely absurd client loads, right, that they have to see, and it's impossible for them to spend more than 5 to 10 minutes. So they're handcuffed from the gate. They basically they just come in and they read whatever the nurse or whoever was in there before, and they say, oh, looks like you have this, this, and this. We're going to prescribe you this. We'll see you in so and so amount of time, and we'll hopefully the symptoms resolve. Instead of going like, hey man, like, what do you eat? You ever exercise? Like, how's your sleeping?
Mary, one of our clients, for the audience, I guess I'm also just talking to Kevin, but one of our clients came in yesterday, and she's got bad knees. She's bone on bone, both knees, starting to shift one way. They say she's too young for knee replacement, so she actually took some of our advice and she went and sought out a stem cell doctor, which I thought was awesome. So for one, it took her a year to do it, but then she came back and she was just like, so like overjoyed, and I'm just like what? Like, what did they tell you? I couldn't wait for. And all she talked about was, she goes, the guy actually sat down and talked to me, asked me questions about my diet, asked me questions about my lifestyle, asked me why I wanted healthier knees, and she goes, and that was, and that's all. So she didn't get like a diagnosis or prognosis, nothing like that. She just was so overjoyed that somebody actually sat with her, and because she went to 3 different orthopedics, and she says they just were telling me what to do. They didn't listen to me. They interrupted me. They were rude. They were quick. And this is a woman that really falls into like traditional everything, traditional family, traditional jobs, traditional man-woman roles, like very traditional. And that just how impressed she was with somebody that actually asked questions. And you and I look at that and we say, well, that should be the norm. But to her, it was just like a revival. Like, she believes in doctors again. So I said, well, stick with this guy.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing we have with our healthcare, man. Because it's amazing on one end. It's absolutely amazing what we can do with medicine, modern medicine now these days, especially for like acute problems. Like if you develop some sort of infection or illness, or you get hit by a car, surgical, like from a surgical perspective, it's just amazing. Right?
Greatest country on the planet.
100%. Very expensive. So Caitlin had my wife had a kidney infection, and then she goes to her doctors, go to your general care physician, and she got like a shot with an antibiotic, and then was given like an orally active antibiotic, or an orally, just a pill form. And she was having like nausea problems, so she couldn't get down the antibiotic. So like obviously I was like, okay. And her doctor said, go to the emergency room if like it's getting any worse. And I thought for sure she had kidney stones. So we go in there. We go into the emergency room. It takes like 9 years to even talk to somebody. She needed painkillers. She was in so much pain. I'm like, just get her some painkillers and then you can take your time. It took forever to get that, and just dealing with like a level of, I'm not going to say where we were at, but just a level of incompetence that like, I'm not I haven't studied pathology like that of like a physician's assistant or a nurse practitioner or a doctor, right? I have a general idea of it just from being in the healthcare industry, kind of on the outside of all the insurance-based stuff. But dude, we're in there for maybe 7 hours and going through these tests. Everything comes back negative. And thankfully, right? Like, you kind of need to go through these tests to like, rule out things that might be more problematic. And I'm getting like these answers from some of these physician's assistants that just don't make any sense. Like I had one woman tell me 3 times that she just doesn't know and that nobody knows why. That was like an answer to a question regarding sludge in your gallbladder. I don't know. It just happens. It just happens. Like, there's no reason why. Like, there's nothing you guys have ever correlated to why there might be sludge in someone's gallbladder. No idea why. So just 7 hours of just like what I would describe as incompetence and just a very bad experience, right? And
makes you want to get healthy,
bro. And then so like couple weeks later, I get hit with a $1,800 bill. My visit there for 7 hours with her in the emergency room was almost $9,000. $9,000. And I'm just sitting there thinking, because we do the complete opposite. We're the people that are like, hey, listen, like you're pretty healthy right now. Let's keep it that way. Like I'm assessing some of your habits right now. Like you don't eat very good. Like you don't really take care of your body. You're not very active. Looks like you sleep pretty poorly. Looks like you're stressed out. Like let's try to manage this now so that in 10 years you're not like in a hospital bed, just being annihilated by insurance companies, right? Like we're on that side where people just aren't really that motivated by being proactive about their health. Our entire healthcare industry is all reactive. It's like let's wait until you're about to die and then just cling on and keep you alive. That's like literally what our healthcare is right now. and it's like saddening that much money, they're making that much money off of just 7 hours of like Caitlin laying in a hospital bed, getting just fluids ran in and a couple tests done, and nobody talking to us, nobody ensuring that everything's going to be all right, and it was just a really cut and dry experience all the way around, and it was $7,000. I'm like, I could change the world with that $7,000.
Yeah.
Put that $7,000 into our business, and we're going to change the fucking world. And it was just, it's like heartbreaking. As much as I love modern medicine, luckily we were able to clear everything up, find out that there was nothing, pressing that was wrong, was able to get an intravenous antibiotic that pretty much annihilated everything that was going on in her body. And we left there kind of feeling better than we came in. But man, I'm not rich by any standpoint. To get an $1,800 medical bill for that is just it's out of control, So I do love the idea of like universal health care. I think some other countries definitely have it figured out. For health, man. I think tax money should be going towards healthcare.
I love to see, and hopefully we've talked about it before, and hopefully we'll talk about it again. I just like incentivizing. Let's incentivize good health. I don't have it all figured out on what questions to answer, what feats of strength to introduce to different populations, but there's got to be a way to empower the client. Again, if these doctors are that overworked, then I have empathy for the doctors. I have empathy for the doctors that maybe do want to sit down and take time with that, but they can't be. So again, we don't know which came first. Was it the cart or the horse? Were the doctors always this way? Is it a chip on their shoulder? Is it an ego, or is it just simply because they become a product of their environment? Now, we trained a couple of people that work in the medical field, and according to the way they interpret it, it does sound like you become a product of your environment, that the quote system breaks you down, breaks down the spirit. You think about teachers, you think about police officers, it's maybe all police officers are really, really good and really, really caring, but the system has them burnt out. Dealing with rude people has them burnt out. Have you ever been pulled over by a police officer when you've done absolutely nothing wrong? I think the answer is no. I think you've never been pulled over for a guy saying you're driving too straight. You didn't use a turn signal, you were speeding, illegal lane change, something. So I guess why am I irate? Why, so it's why do I have a negative connection to police officers that have only interacted with me when I haven't been doing something, lawfully? So it's again, I just don't know. I don't know which one it is. I don't know if it's the system or the person or a combination of the two. But you're right. But that's why we have these conversations, because as much as I want to change the world, I try to focus on just changing my world. I control the things I can control. I try to, and if I read a great book, I try to enlighten people that are close to me and people that I care for. Hey, I came up with this awesome diet, try it. Or I came up with this awesome coffee recipe, give it a go. Let me know how it feels, So I guess the universe, you can look at it on a global scale, or you can look at it on my scale. And so, when I look at it from my scale, things are a lot more tolerable. Things are easier to control. Things are, and things are just really not as bad.
Taking in the big picture is a recipe for massive amounts of anxiety.
Absolutely.
In 2018.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's too much information. There's too much just delusion and disassociation from reality, and there's so many avenues of information to go down, so many differing opinions. It's hard to grasp. So I think it does just come back to putting yourself back into a box, finding a good group of people to surround yourself with, and kind of create a tribe.
Well, I've referred to how technology has basically taken evolution from a quadruped crawl to a locomotion. And I said, but that's the beauty of the generation that we're in right now, is I can get on that locomotion. In other words, I can download things. I can go to PubMed. I can read medical research. I heard somebody say, we have more technology at our disposal today than our fucking president did 25 years ago. So it's, so there's a lot. There's a lot of I at least look at it as the responsibility that is a cell phone, that is a laptop. Again, you think about all the things you could download that you have no business downloading. So there's a discipline that still comes with it. So I like getting on the locomotion again when I need to get information, or I need to fast track work, or make quick communication. But it's awesome that I also can experience getting off of it. And then again, now I'm back with nature. Now I'm back in a conversation. Now I'm back trying to light a bonfire. So it's like it's almost. I was talking to my daughter about it yesterday, just like time travel. It's like I think that with technology and with young minds today, we live in a very with a very futuristic mindset about like I asked somebody, I'm like, hey man, happy Thursday, and he goes, no man, it's Friday Eve. And that to me is just like a little snippet of already anticipating the next day. And I'm like, well, just be careful. Just be careful to anticipate Friday. I said, you might miss your Thursday. So it's almost like time travel. So when you're young, you're thinking about what's coming next. And when you're old, you have a tendency to reminisce about what just was and sometimes what just is. At least that's a practice I'm trying to get into. So I have experienced the different speeds. But going, we're talking about like, I think maybe it's the same thing like in the medical field. Maybe it's just a speed thing, and maybe when every once in a while, like there's those new TV shows, like what's that show? My wife watches it all the time, Amsterdam. And that seems like a guy that got off the locomotion and is getting back to like old world, medicine, and he's going to break the rules because he's here to heal people. He's not here to follow a system. So half of it is the powers bitching at him about breaking the rules, and the other half is the people that are following him because he's present. He's in the right here and he's in the right now. And the guy's kind of dying of cancer too, so it's a cool little understory. Or he has cancer, I guess.
Nothing like a diagnosis of death to get you motivated to look at things, in reality.
But we've all already been given that diagnosis. Yeah. And so again, I don't know why, again, we should all look in the mirror every day and say, okay, my body's full of cancer. What am I going to accomplish? So yeah, so maybe our medicine and our information, everything it's that locomotion. But again, rather than just blanket medicine, I'm sorry that you had a bad experience. Every once in a while, maybe there are those doctors that do take that time and do answer those questions. So
and it was a lot of I think it comes back a lot of the time to like it was a lot of young the place I said it's a lot of young PAs. So I was like empathetical to it. It wasn't as bad until I got that bill. Yeah. So for me it's one of those things where I think if you're in a position where you're very financially secure, like you should have private practices where like if you want the best of the best,
and you can pay for it.
Exactly. If you want the best of the best, you go see the best of the best. Like I think America still needs to attract the best doctors, and you don't do that with universal healthcare. I mean, I don't think you do. I'm way too stupid to even have an opinion on this, but it just kind of makes sense that a lot of the privatized healthcare would drive the best of the best to come over here to make as much money as they can for whatever expertise they have. But we should definitely develop an option for the people that can't, which is the most people. Like most people don't make more than $30,000 a year as a household, man. So like to get that bill sent to them, I mean that's
devastating.
It's devastating. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just unrealistic to think I'm just gonna like be like, all right, here you go, man, for a dog shit experience. But I think for me it comes from a place of empathy. Like there's a lot of young PAs in there, and you go through all this schooling, and it's not until you go into like your residency where you actually start experiencing like what it's actually like. You're sitting in class and getting these hypothetical scenarios that don't translate to real like interaction. So I think it's just ass backwards to begin with, and then it's the hamster wheel of obviously you the product of your environment, right? Hospitals are very fast paced by nature, but I think it's also as an individual you're sitting there thinking like, man, I just spent almost $1 million on this education. Like I need to make money, and I get that too. You developed a skill set that not many people are willing to go through and develop, and now you want to be rewarded for it. And I think you should be rewarded for it. And I don't have an answer for how you resolve it, but man, like I think if I was going to give an answer, it would be to somehow, like you said, incentivize and motivate people to take care of themselves before they're dying.
Well, yeah, right? That was going to be my question to you. Why are the hospitals so overloaded? I mean, are we that sickly, or are we also like, I mean, is it just fear?
Well,
again, we're going to go to the people that we trust the most, and we have so much fear.
Yeah. Well, healthcare cost is going to like outweigh the GDP in the next like 2 decades. So that's the amount of money we're spending on like keeping people alive, like medicating people. It's like I think every person with diabetes costs like upwards of like 70. I could be totally wrong on these numbers, but I know it's an outrageous number, like $70,000 a year for a diabetic patient to for all their medicines, all their doctor's visits, all this stuff, And like you and I both know that type 2 diabetes can be reversed with diet.
Easy,
you know what I mean?
Much cheaper.
Way cheaper, And then again it goes back to like, okay, like you're hypothetically you're a 32-year-old, you've been working at your desk job, you used to be an athlete, you used to be in really good shape, and maybe the last 6 years you've been kind of starting to see yourself put on a little bit of weight, but it's not overwhelming yet. But again, it's one of those things, like we joke about it all the time, thin people fit in coffins just as well as fat people do, right? So body comp is not, it's a definite indicator of being unhealthy, right? Like if you're outwardly overweight, that is a sign. Like visceral fat, it leads to nearly every pathology you can imagine, right? Just having, excess fat around the belly. So let's take that hypothetical situation and say, if we can catch that guy before another 4 years goes by of him having a bad lifestyle, and a lot of it's due to bad information, right? It's hard to go online and find, what's going to be the best way for me to sustain health and be healthy. We get that guy, we look at his habits, maybe he's getting 4 hours of sleep a night because he's stressed out, and, he's eating croissants for breakfast, and the only activity he ever does is maybe he's in a soccer league, which is good, soccer league's great, keep doing that, but how can we supplement in and pull things out and shapeshift different habits so that you never become one of those, $70,000 patients that's now suffering from diabetes, and we get it, and now we spend virtually no money. He comes here, he spends $300 a month for a year. You do the math, right? And now he's got sustainable habits. He has good education and a good understanding of how to sustain for the rest of his life this lifestyle. And then he never becomes one of those statistics. That, in my opinion, is how you change the world. Overnight. Is if you can somehow, it's so hard to get people motivated because there's so many distractions. Life is tiring. I get it, man. You get it. It's hard. It's hard to make time to go exercise. It's hard to make time to, make the right meal decisions. It's hard to, make time for a nighttime routine so that you sleep better.
How many times do people go, I go to the doctors that I don't go to doctors that necessarily just are, I don't really go to the doctors much, but recently I have been to a cardiologist, about that, just a little AFib. So I think I'm being reactive and preventative all at the same time. I've been told that my heart's completely healthy, but I am also saying, okay, well then why do I get those weird electrical rhythms? So it just allows me to go into a deeper layer of how the body works, and I'm interested in it. But what's interesting is I have to pay all of it out of pocket because of my deductibles. So I think to myself, I'm like, well, that's my personal motivation. So I tell people, all right, you go to the doctor every time you get a migraine or you get a cold or anything like that. What if you had to pay for it out of pocket every time you went? Would you be going today? That's my question to people. Would you go today with how you're feeling if you had to come out of pocket for it? And it's no. The answer is no. So it's almost again, it's what came first? I don't know. But the fact that they're just getting it calmed. It's almost like getting calmed, even though it indirectly comes out of your check when you work for a corporation. It's money that you never feel. You never feel the loss of having a healthcare plan. It's you don't experience anything. So it's very easy to walk in and say, fix me, I'm ill. And I would imagine the doctors have probably taken on that role. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. But remember, you can't send people home without some sort of a diagnosis. If you go in with pain and you don't leave with a pain pill, it's malpractice. Not misprescribing somebody the wrong meds. That's not malpractice. In other words, how many nurses have told me, if you don't acknowledge the symptom and give them something, it just won't work. The model won't work. And I'm like, well, who's reacting then? Why don't if the doctors are all knowing, all powerful, and everybody trusts them more than they trust their own parents, then why don't the doctors empower people to say, there's nothing wrong with you, okay? You're allowed to experience pain from time to time. You just need to eat better and live a better life. So if it continues after 3 or 4 days, come back. I don't know. Maybe they should be using their powers for education. Maybe they should be using their powers to empower people and say there's nothing wrong with you. So I don't really know.
But they spend so much time in school. Matthew Walker, the guy that wrote Why We Sleep, he was just talking through his entire schooling to become a doctor. He said he had a total of an hour and a half of education on sleep and the effects of sleep on your health.
And then nutrition, it's
nutrition's an hour, and exercise is an hour. They don't know anything about it.
Psychology.
I've trained doctors. I trained a cardiologist at my last gym. And he had no idea Like he was like, yeah, I know how to like diagnose problems with the heart.
I
like
can fix it.
Yeah, I can fix it. I don't know if he was a surgeon, but and it was just amazing. And like he just didn't really have an understanding of like the influence of exercise. Like he would say that like, hey, you need to exercise more, but like didn't really understand any of the mechanisms behind why. You know, it was just amazing to me. You know, this guy who's like you would associate with like a very educated guy who's going to really know like the ins and outs of why and how exercise is going to influence a better and healthier heart. Just had no idea. But it's fascinating in that regard. Like they go through so much on like what sickness do you have and what medication is going to limit the sickness. And something else I was just listening to, I'm trying to think about who I was listening to that was talking about it. They're talking about like like how obviously we know about like big pharma. Like it's very dirty. It's a dirty world, big pharma is. But he was talking about how like most of these medications are developed on like on campuses. With money that's coming from taxpayers. And then these big pharma companies swoop in, buy the rights to the medications, get the patent on the medication, and then they just jack the price up 1,000, 2,000, 5,000%, and then sell it back to us when our money was the reason that it was developed in the first place. I was like, it's so ass backwards, man. It's so strange, and it's fascinating because now politics becoming so like influenced by obviously like money. There's all these external influences coming in to fund a political run. Now you have these ulterior motives and you're biased and it's not getting talked about. And then you say like you take something like the legalization of pot and you see some of these people that are clinging on to it staying illegal out of the fear that it's going to disrupt some of these big pharma like companies in there. And again, it's one of those things that what blows my mind is it's like if you sold that drug, at a very mild markup, your company is still going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. So like at what point did like greed just consume you as a company to the point where like you got to just absolutely screw over like your people with the pricing on these medications? And then obviously you got to bring the insurances in. It's like you pay $5 out of pocket, but did you actually look how much that medication was? I
got a question for you. What if we have a minimum wage, right?
Yeah.
What if we had a maximum wage? Now, how to come up with that number, I do not know. But take the Waltons, for example. They own Walmart. There's like 5 family members that on record make over $1 billion a piece each year. But yet 50% of their workforce is on government assistance. So obviously the minimum wage is not getting it done. You can't live on $10 an hour. You can't do anything on $10 an hour. You can't have a car and a house on $10 an hour. But I think about it, okay, so if greed is the driving force and fear is our driving force, and so what if you could only make so much money? Don't know what the number is. Like maybe it's $1 billion, maybe it's 200 million. And then after that money just gets funneled back into the economy. Obviously people are going to say, morality has to be the foundation here. There has to be a moral DNA to any decisions like this. But man, I thought about this last week and I'm like, what if there was you cannot make any more money than this? What could you possibly spend it on? What could you possibly consume? What could you possibly buy that you can't buy with that kind of money? Would that change anything?
Yeah, that's like such a hard. It's a cool idea. The thing is, you don't want to get in the way of capitalism because then you get lazy people. You know what I mean? Like there's something to be said about people that make billions of dollars. Like they work their fucking ass off to do it, right?
But how many of those people work their fucking ass off and it has nothing to do with money? So as I'm saying, innovation and wealth seem to go together, but they really only care. Would Elon Musk stop doing what he's doing if he didn't have 200 million in the bank?
Well,
No.
I think it's a cool idea in that, maybe it's not so much that like you can only make a certain amount of money, but maybe like after you've made, this set number of money, now like the rest of it, and I like the idea of like choice, right? Like I like the idea of like, instead of just like dumping money into the government, because it's been very obvious that they do not spend our money very well. I mean,
Right.
there's so
That's what I'm saying.
many.
They can't be in control.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and then you're just dealing with like a lot of governmental workers, like why are these people more experienced and able to put this money in good places than like the people, right? So I like the idea of like like maybe there's these different charities, these different funds, like our education system. Like, why are we not pumping absurd amounts of money into the next generation of people that are going to be leading this country? Like, why are we cutting costs left and right for the schooling of our own children? Like, why do we have these delusional universal curriculums that just ostracize like specific kids and let other kids flourish?
Is that still part of the maybe that's still part of the primitive? And I heard this in that book *Sapiens*, where they talk about that the reason like there was no like financing and why the nations were so murderous is because every generation always assumed this is the last great generation and that the world was basically going to end when we're all dead. That's why they overate. They solved issues by cutting each other's fucking heads off or shooting each other out in the streets because we just assumed that there was nothing else coming. So is it possible that might still happen? Like that could still happen? Like we actually start considering the future? But as of right now, are we primitive in the understanding that the generation I lived in is the last great generation? Are people still saying that? Do people still believe that? Because I know I talk to people that are a little older than me, and they do.
Yeah,
they think when you ask a 60-year-old about a millennial, they basically say the world's going to end.
Yeah,
like the world's over, it's done. Like there's nothing left. Like say your prayers.
As if like they're 65 and they think they have the world figured out and they haven't read a book in 44 years.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like I had to challenge even my daughter with that because she was having a strong opinion on something, and I said, okay, I want to listen to you. I said, but show me the article that you read that gave you this information. Well, I didn't read an article. And I'm like, oh, so you just heard somebody say that, so that sounded logical to you, so you're just going to put passion behind it and now you're going to try to sell me? I said, there is no greater level of ignorance, and that level being having a strong opinion on a subject that you've never even fucking explored. Like, there's nothing wrong with a non-opinion. There is nothing wrong with being ignorant on a certain subject.
Yeah, and I think like generationally, it makes sense that I think you should have to earn an opinion. Yeah. You should have to be credible for that opinion. And again, I think like I find myself in a lot of situations where like I'll throw one out there, but it's very loose. Like I'm happy to watch it get crushed and change my mind. Like
love it.
Constantly, it's like one of my favorite things that happens to me on a daily basis. It's a good ego check, but. To just discount, we talk about this all the time, like to generalize an entire generation of millions and millions and millions of people and say like they're all lazy and stupid. It's so just, it's irritating, like being of that generation. It's frustrating, and it just shows such a level of ignorance and stupidity that like I don't even want to hear anything else you have to say after that comment. Because again, it's people that are my age that are changing the world right now.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Millennials that are innovating on a level that we've never seen before.
Think of what they do with Burning Man. Like, why would that not be? Why could that not be conceptualized on a global scale? Like, why is what they do as far as, again, we talk about starting a commune and everything like that, and I'm like, why can't people just come together and pool resources and really start leaning towards a more abstract, quote, meaning of life? Because I caught up with the Joneses and I realized that they were a bunch of assholes with bratty kids. Okay? So I moved out. You know what I mean? Like I don't like I'm forced to buy these homes in these communities that they're selling community. They're selling school systems. They're selling hope and future. And I'm just like, I don't want to talk to any of my neighbors. I don't want to know their opinion on anything. It's like they're not my people. So it's like maybe we need to only elect. Yeah, because how could 70-year-old people, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but with the way the world is changing, how can 70-year-old people tell a 20-year-old person the right way to live and the right way to grow? I mean, it's generationally speaking, they're talking two completely different languages. They don't understand one another at all. So maybe for the world to get to that point, maybe where we do develop more of an us rather than like everything is us rather than them. I'm opposed to anything that's an us versus them. But maybe we need to elect a millennial and see what they would do with the world, and maybe we would get what we're asking for. It's hard to. I mean, I just think electing like one single person to run an entire country with 330 plus million people, and that should be our first like, hey man, like. I know these guys wrote this thing on a piece of paper back in like the 1700s that we're all still trying to follow, but like, do you think if they were here today, they'd be saying the same thing?
They would be like, hey, this was 200 years ago.
That's what I said. I said, even look at, like, I love, and I know this can scratch it, but you know how we love to do it. Like, I talk about the Bible. I'm like, look, the Bible as a manifesto on how to live and the print, just the moral DNA that it is. Like, it's an amazing book. But so what I do is I just challenge the mind, not to disprove anything. I'm not out to disprove anything. I'm out to enlighten. I'm out to take an idea and make it modern. I said, so you have to consider the mind of that was the human 4,000 years ago. What were they thinking about? They weren't talking about skyscrapers. They weren't talking about consciousness. They were just hoping to, like, live tomorrow. Like,
find food.
I'm hungry. Or will my child wake up tomorrow? So it's like, you got to think of the mind that writes books. That's why I love Stoic philosophy, is it still seems relevant, you know, and that's why these are some brilliant.
Yeah, I just like being pragmatic. Pragmatism first above all things. Like, be practical with your life, and then go from there. Because there's two sides of the coin, right? Like, I love the idea of you know, spending my days, you know, outside and, you know, like, meditating and thinking, but, like, it's not sustainable. And, like, I don't know enough about, like, different governments to, like, even have an opinion, right? But, like, you know, you take, like, socialism, right? Like, it seems so attractive from the outside, especially for someone like me who's not ultra wealthy. Like, I would get a lot of benefits from socialism, but, like, at what point would it collapse based on lazy people, like, motivated people becoming lazy? Because there's no incentive, right? Like, a great example is, I used to work in a factory, right? And this is without me. This is just human nature without me even knowing about it until I got a little older and I, like, reassessed it. But I worked in a factory, right? And I made $10 an hour, right? And I had a quota. I built drive-through screens for, like, Taco Bell's, you see, right? So every week we get in, we'd be like, all right, we got to get 30 units built. You know, by Friday we got to ship them out, and we would have, like, a process and we'd build them all, right? And what I would notice is that, like, when I first got in, you know, I got, like, to work, you know, so it's just like, you know, just get as much done as you can, turn it into a game, do it quickly, right? But then, like, I would notice that, like, the guy over there was just like, you know, I was turning out, like, 10 units to his, like, 3, right?
And you got paid the same.
No, he was making more than me.
Oh, because of tenure.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, and then it just, by nature, I just started just getting lazier. Like, I was, you know, like, 18 at the time, so I wasn't, like, thinking about it. You know, and I just, like, you know, I just kind of started slowing down. And, you know, you start thinking about these kind of things, and it's the same thing as, like, you know, if you had, like, a socialist economy, it's like, at what point are these motivated people that want to work and innovate, and, like, they want to be rewarded for that innovation? Like, there has to be something that's a reward for working hard. Like, and maybe if we did go socialist, like, you create a different reward that isn't monetary, but, like, what would that be? Like, I don't know what that, there's nothing that I could think that could replace it, right? But that was, like, such a fascinating, and that was, like, one of those stern moments where I'm like, I need to work for myself. Like, it's like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, this guy's making $5 more an hour than me, and I could do twice the work that he could do in a day. But because he's been here and I haven't, like, he gets more money than me. Like, it made no sense. Like, he was lazy and, like, not even fun to be around. He's like a callous to the work environment, right? And it was such a hard lesson in the realities of, like, a lot of manufacturing companies and a lot of the way businesses ran, right? So you're even seeing, like, with these younger companies, you know, back to the millennial, you're seeing this change. Like, you're incentivized, right? This is why, not to pinball too far off, but, like, this Common Core idea that they're implementing into, like, school curriculum, where it's like we're still, like, getting kids ready to go work on a factory line. You know, it's like, this step precedes this step precedes that step, and you have to do it this way, and if you don't do it this way, you lose credit. Yeah, even if you get the right answer and you discount 7 steps to get there, and you can prove how you did that. Like, that kid is going to be a millionaire. Like, if we hired that kid tomorrow and he figured out a better way to do one of the processes that we do here, he's going to be rewarded. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to not reward the guy that's just always just going through the same steps because that's what he was told to do, right? You get rewarded in 2018 to innovate. And we're teaching our kids how to not innovate. And it's delusional. It makes no sense to me. And I'm stupid. That's the thing. Like, that's the scary part. When I assess my own intelligence, and I'm I guess what I would consider a not so intelligent person compared to a lot of people out there, especially due to my age and how much experience I have. And, like, I can see this so clearly, but we can't on, like, a global scale. It's just, it's one of those things, you know, especially having, like, a 5-year-old man who's, like, you know, starting to gear up and get into the public school system. Like, I'm gonna have to run my head through a couple walls, you know. I'm
still open to a traditional school alternative. You know, as of right now, I consider it, and it's like it's better than my plan B. So, but hopefully at 13 years old, she hasn't been overly corrupted yet. And we can still kind of control what's coming out there.
Yeah, it's a fascinating world we live in, man.
I think I'm glad we're having this talk, because this is a talk that I think really preludes into almost like the lack of podcast production that we've had. At what point do even guys like us who are supposed to innovate every day, how is it primal? Is it so easy just to slip into the path least resisted and minimum output and just doing just what I need to do? And I'm glad that we at least have our weekly meetings where we talk about look, even if you're not as busy as you were last week, what could you be better at? What could you do better? Could you organize your file folders better? Could you communicate with your clients better? Could you read more? So that's I challenge myself that with all the time. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Challenging myself how I spend my downtime. I want to be present. I want to be aware, and I want to be accountable even when I relax. And I want to tell you, no, I relaxed here, and here's why, if I had to do so. So it's it's I know why I'm awakened, and it's I used to call it fear. The fear of running your own business and knowing that people are here voluntarily and they can walk out of here at any point. So I got to continue to deliver. I got to continue to advance my skills. I got to continue to stay one page ahead in the book that I'm having everybody else read. You know what I mean? So that's my driving force. But now it's almost elicited a force inside of me that it wouldn't matter what industry that I was in. This is who I am. This is how I'm wired, and I don't apologize for it. So I don't know where I'm empathetic to people's lack of drive. But when you ask them, they're giving all they can. So,
yeah, and the sad part is, I guess where we would consider ourselves expert, which is on the training, on the nutrition, on the lifestyle habit side of living. It's like the golden key to finding that motivation and energy, because it comes back. You are a biological being still. Granted, we're moving away from it for sure. I was listening to somebody talk about, like these next few generations may be the last ones that even have the ability to be sad and angry and frustrated. That might be a genetic, thing that we can tease out. We can tease out these neurotransmitters that cause these problems.
Especially if we start getting more shamans in there, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Just with things like CRISPR, or we're genetically modifying things, we can basically build superhumans if we want to right now, today, but the question is is it ethical? That's where we're at. It's not, do we have the technology? No, is it ethical to create a super race?
I think I think they're afraid because of our ability to mass communicate. I think they're afraid that we'd just be smarter than the powers that be.
Well, yeah, that's
if you have 10 million consciousness seeking people, there's no more government the way it was.
Yeah.
That's why it's easy to be the government 50 years ago, is because there was no way for you and I to communicate about it. There was no way for us to talk to people across state lines or across city lines. And now we have mass communication.
Yeah, and I think, for now, because, we're not there yet, we don't have a magic pill. We don't have a magic surgery. And when it does come, it's going to be expensive as shit. Why do people not understand, despite the plethora of science out there, that when you feed your body correctly, when you follow, good lifestyle habits, and it's black and white at this point. You know what I mean? You can make it more intricate. If you want to be a pro athlete, the programs get intricate. But for the general human that's just trying to live a better life, eating better, eating cleaner, and we know what foods typically are going to drive that. Obviously, there's a little bit of biodiversity within that, and we tease that out over time to develop the best diet for an individual based on their needs, right? And exercise and training, keeping the body feeling good, feeling strong, because then you can manipulate the outside environment more easily, and you have more energy through that exercise. Your heart stays healthier, and then good sleep habits. Sleep is how you rebuild and regenerate, and without it, you will be tired, you will be irritable, you will be frustrated. There's not a shortage of research on the success of those three things influencing a better life, right? But we every week we meet on Wednesdays and we bang our heads against the wall going why doesn't anybody understand this? And it keeps me up at night, man.
I know. No, it's suffocating, man.
Yeah, especially when people complain about it.
Makes you want to quit.
It does, man. It's an exhausting endeavor. But again, it's what's going to be the shift? Is the shift going to come through insurance companies going oh shit, let's insure people to be proactive, right? So that $500 that comes out of your paycheck every month that you don't see goes right into our service, And now we're keeping you healthy and sustaining your
When
health.
Dr. Jack, he's an amazing social media doctor. He's like a mitochondrial like guru. But he showed it's awesome. We've all seen it. It was a spoonful of pills, and says, I admire the doctors that get people off of these, not put them on them. And so consciousness, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it goes up. Maybe consciousness has to start from almost a form of poverty, because it's almost like you're allowed to get a new, and I think maybe that's what I've come to terms with, with stress and growth, and oftentimes lack of growth. It makes me hyper self-aware, and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? There's a guaranteed career waiting for you. Like, just go there. You get checks every Friday, and you can have a cottage up north, and for some reason I'm just like, I can't do it. I like, this brain won't allow me to do that. So where did my epiphany come from? The fear? Did my epiphany come from, how close to zero, I was? Is comfort the death of desire? Is that where complacency comes in? Is in being comfortable? I'm not sure. But I feel bad for people that don't feel.
Yeah, it sucks, man. I've gone like in and out of different emotions about it. I've definitely, I think empathy leads the way, but I've felt a lot of anger and resentment and frustration towards those who do not consistently, reach further. Because like, for me, what I've kind of concluded is, when you're an individual, right? Like, if you're an individual, like, which my group, I'm almost 25 years old. So like, most of my friends are just individuals. Like, they don't have they have families. They don't have like kids. They don't really have like people like looking up to them, right? And I was in a weird situation where I had a kid really young, where it's like, you have a daughter. They don't listen to you. They follow what you do. Right, so the saddest thing for me is when I see a grown individual with younger individuals looking up to them, and they're just taking shit care of themselves, because you're now feeding death into the next generation, an earlier death. I mean, I get it. Like, what's your family history, right? Like, so many people say, how many times have you heard that from a client? Like, well, obesity's in my family history. It's like, so were Oreos. Oreos were in your family history too.
You're not an Oreo.
Yeah, like it is not like there is a level of family history that's influential, but like we now know that like over 70% of your genetics can be changed based on lifestyle, behavior, and habit. Like, you have epigenetics. You can make genes express themselves or not express themselves based on your lifestyle. So don't tell me that all of your family died from cancer and so are you. You're going to die from cancer. Like, maybe you're a little more inclined to get cancer if you continue down the shitty path, but like, what if? What if? We don't know, but like, why not try? Why not try to not get cancer and live a little bit longer, right? Because life's great, man. I love living, and I know you do too.
Well, I guess if I saw, we got a guest. Come on, that's okay. That's what we do, man. We're live,
bro.
But it's like, you think about,
Nick Hopwood of Peak Wealth Management.
Nick Hopwood of Peak Wealth Management just popped in. He's trying to get into our next podcast, but he's turning in our client questionnaire form.
Sorry I'm so late.
That's okay, man. I appreciate you taking the time to do it. Like I said, this is our way of grading ourselves. We want to know who we are and what we're doing. How's your day
You
been?
shouldn't be reading those responses live. Okay.
I will not.
We're going to read them out to the public.
Don't worry. They'll get only what they need.
It's confidential.
Hundreds of thousands of listeners.
You having a good day? You feeling all right?
Feeling good.
Good, man. Yeah, so, I mean, that's what we do. We handed out, it was a quick left turn. We handed out these client questionnaires where we're just asking our clients, like, who are we? Who are we, and are we doing our job well? I thought this was a really neat experiment, just because I enjoy growth. I enjoy the idea of growth and the opportunity that growth presents, and those to me are very fun things, and they're very fun ways of keeping me in check and to keep me, again, where I'm not staying up maybe too late on the weekends. I'm not getting off a leash as far, because my life has a purpose. My life has a point, and you're right. I want to lead with action, and that's not only to our children but to each other, and to drive each other, so, wealth is, maybe that's the whole aspect of wealth. I'm into all this manifestation and visualization and trying to create my future. And a book that I still need you to read called Immortal Man, about how we are simply, kind of like Aldous Huxley says, we are just gods with amnesia. And that's what the book from Neville Goddard basically implies, is that we we are God playing the role of Kevin and God playing the role of Ben, and it's a very interesting responsibility comes with that, because now if you accept or at least are open to that ideology, then you have to say, okay, then everything that ever has happened and will happen to me is a direct result of me. And that's very difficult for a lot of people. Like when you say bad people are in my life and it's not my fault, well maybe it is. It's not necessarily a fault line, but it's like whatever you want to call it, the law of attraction, whatever it is. But it's like, I love the idea of taking full responsibility for everything that I have. And part of my manifestations have been wealth. I want wealth. I've challenged the world with, hey man, send me a check for $3 million and watch what I do with it. You won't have to worry about me hanging out with Charlie Sheen. Like in my world, I would change everything. I've already got ideas on how to spend the money and where it would be and what my legacy would be, and it's exciting to me. But I've also got to be open-minded to the fact that wealth has more than one definition. Maybe I don't understand what wealth is. Maybe wealth is exactly what we're doing right now. We're empowering each other. We're empowering our minds, and we're actually considering what we are teaching other people with our actions. And maybe that's wealth. Maybe that's why we're not jumping out of windows. It's like rich people jump out of windows all the time. Rich people kill themselves all the time. So we know it's not an equation of money. So maybe I just have to be open-minded that the universe is manifesting wealth for me, but maybe it's not in exactly the form by which I've asked for it.
Yeah, I've been tending to read into some of Alan Watts' work. I've been digging back into a lot of his philosophies, and he had a segment just kind of talking about wealth, and how disassociated we've become from like true wealth, which is like relationships and good food and all these things that like they're just necessities now. But necessity is a wealth, at the end of the day. And he was this he's a great speaker, and he kind of slips in a lot of like comical stuff. He was talking about like you go to the supermarket, right, and you fill this giant basket full of goodies and fruits and vegetables and fresh meats, and then you go to the checkout line and they tap a bunch of buttons and they get this little printout, and then they go, that'll be $35.50, and then you like give them just this bland piece of paper, but like you feel depressed giving them the paper and leaving with the goods. Like that's how like disassociated we've come from like the realities of like what we need to thrive. And like the way he presents it is just, it's so beautiful, because he explains wealth is in the basket. Wealth is not in your wallet. Like wealth is the fruits and vegetables that you get to eat.
Yeah, well, I was chasing that entrepreneurial dream of trying to build a sustainable business to where maybe I didn't have to work 90 hours a week. I neglected my family. I was never home, and when I was home, I was angry. And when I wasn't angry, I wasn't home. So it's like, like what would all the money in the world have meant to me if the people that I'm supposedly working hard for, didn't love me and didn't look forward to me coming home. It's like and that's what's interesting. Like maybe I do have all the wealth I need. Maybe this is my pinnacle. Maybe this is the peak. But it's going to take a certain amount of more mushrooms for me to figure that out.
Well, yeah, and the cool thing is it's like back to the super billionaires of the Waltons. It's like those kids I just actually finished reading Sam Walton's like one of his biographies or autobiographies. I think he wrote it. It's from a while ago. It's been redone, since I think he died a couple of years back. But I mean, it's an amazing story of a guy that just loved and was passionate about like these discount stores, and just like loved watching it grow. And he was super frugal, like insanely frugal, and he was all about giving money back to the employees, and built this amazing business that like was just outrageously large and effective in providing the best products at the best prices. And then I don't know enough. They don't really get into the history of like when that might have kind of taken a turn, like how big did, like when does scale become terrible for your employees? Like at what level can you not sustain and support your employees in an effective manner to where they can't live and whatnot? But I mean, these kids were born and were born into a family that's wealthy. I don't know. I'm not judging them in any way. I'm sure they're philanthropists. They seemed like good kids from the way he explained them. Growing up, and how he would force them to put their own money into like the stock of the different stores, and that's how they all like acquired a lot of their wealth, was from their own desire to invest into the companies. But like, you almost need to put the groundwork in now. Like you just said, someone gives you a $3 million check. Like you've spent the time figuring out what you do with it, and like buying Rolls Royces is not in the agenda.
Not even on the list.
Like buying the best clothing. It's like give me like 7 outfits of nice clothing every week. Like I like nice gym clothing. Like all I wear is gym clothing. Like I like the nice stuff because it lasts. You know, like I've spent more money at TJ Maxx than I have at Lululemon, and I like that stuff's gone. That stuff's like the TJ Maxx stuff's unusable within like 6 weeks. You know, it's just usually cheaper shit. So, you know, there's value in having the money to buy the better stuff because a lot of times it lasts longer. But like, how much of it do you need? Like, do you need a new Lululemon shirt every week? You know, it's like the Jersey Shore. Well, like it's like the Jersey Shore when that show was on back in the day. They would talk about how they would only wear a shirt once. It just once. You never wear it again after you wore it. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, what size are you?
Yeah, like, you guys donating that after? Like, why? That's incredible. But there's like, it's same with me, man. Like, you know, I have a number in mind of the amount of money I want to make, and back to the point, like when you're not making that money and you can barely, you know, afford to just live, it's stressful, man. So the importance of money is very high on the totem pole until you have enough to where you're like, you know, you can put every bill on auto pay and you never worry about it. You know, then greed starts to sneak in, and that's when you have to put the groundwork in. Like, you have to be doing the meditating, you have to be doing the introspective analysis, you have to be objectifying your life on a day-to-day and seeing, like, is this money better spent on myself, on things that I don't really need, or is it better spent on a float tank so that our clients can go do a deep meditation for an hour and find value and a better understanding of their existence?
I've contemplated the same thing. I basically said, well, perhaps if manifestation is real and my desires are real, then in my godlike state, I knew that years ago I wasn't ready for wealth. You know, I knew that wealth would probably have killed me 10 years ago. You know, that's probably the Charlie Sheen story. You know what I mean? Hookers and bags of cocaine. So it's amazing what you'll find through humility, and even if it's not self-inflicted humility. You know, like I wasn't broke on purpose. You know, but it's amazing how it now is one of the greatest references that I have, and for the day-to-day, for conversations, for how I live my life. Again, it's like we get the fortunate opportunity to have like the middle of the day off. Again, fortunate to have clients in the morning and evening, but that middle of the day, like it's still QT, man. It's still quality time for me. Everything that I do is thought out. It's, you know, I already know what I'm going to be doing with my afternoon today, so I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the opportunity to spend a little extra time with my daughter because she's not in school today. I'm excited about the nap I'm going to take, and I'm excited about the book I'm going to start reading. So I like the idea of mind over matter, and perhaps that would be a good title for this talk. You know, are we mind over matter? Or is it matter over our mind? You know what I mean? So do we have so much matter? In other words, things that we've collected that we've lost our mind. You know, so I guess I'm glad I'm without a lot of matter, because at the end result has been me cultivating a stronger, more thankful, more joyous mind. So
it's tough, man. It's tough because I know I deal with this a lot, where it's like, especially, you know, being on the side of like, you know, we're trying to grow a business, so it's realistically like there is no time off. You know, like we don't stamp a swipe a card, and like we don't like know that direct deposit's coming in no matter what every 2 weeks, right? Like it's really built on our ability to sustain focus and to continue to grow to a level, right? But I know, like with myself, I've always struggled with like allowing myself to enjoy that quality time. You know, like I went and played hockey at 10 a.m. this morning. You know, this is something that like a year ago I would have never let myself do ever. Or if I did it, I would just feel terrible about it. You know, like I should have been spending time on finding more clients or growing the business or researching, studies on why, you know, fast twitch training is different than slow twitch training. You know what I mean? Like, and at the end of the day, you know, I think having you in my life and being around you a lot more has been a big impact on that, and seeing the value and just like enjoying things like you really just have right now. Like, just stop and think about that. Like, you only have this. Like, and you start thinking about the past, you get depressed. You start thinking about the future, you get anxiety. And, like, you got to somehow find the in-between, like, where you're just living. And it's one of those things where I understand it, like, but, man, it's like Stoic philosophy. Like, you don't just read Stoic philosophy, practice it. You know what I mean? It's stupid to just read it and then go tell people about it. Like, are you doing it? Like, are you actively putting yourself in situations that are uncomfortable to try to grow your mind and your ability to, like, detach from your ego? Mm-hmm. You know, are you actively, like, pursuing days where you don't eat, you know, all the healthy food even though you can afford it? You know, like, and then realizing that it's okay. Like, you're going to live. You'll live on rice and beans if you have to. It's not that bad.
Actually, really well.
Yeah, it's not that bad. You know,
it's really well organized.
So like I love some of their exercise. Where it's like sleep on the floor for a night. It's not that bad. You have a roof over your head still. So yeah, I think that's a great takeaway, man. Like mind over matter, matter over mind. It's a really cool idea, and I think it's something that like there's no stopping point. Like I think that's the cool thing about how we have these conversations where they just come from a place of like, I don't really know, but this is kind of a cool idea.
I want to learn more about the things that are going around in my mind. Like I said, it's like I got all kinds of things in my mind, but only so much you can share.
Yeah.
You can't have these conversations with everybody because, again, conversations are very difficult. Conversations are typically one person trying to convince the other person of how they think about it. So
especially with the nature of everybody looking to get offended today. It's like it's constant, like any chance. Like I was telling you the other day, I made a Facebook post, and like it was a complete play on words. It was an obvious like comedic statement, right? Like it was about a real problem going on, but I jokingly and like immediately I get someone on there like, it sounds very judgmental about this.
Sorry, that's what you read.
Yeah, I'm like,
that's up to you.
I'm like, dude, not in the slightest. This is where you see judgment, I see comedy, man. Like this is what's wrong with our world, like recreational outrage. So take a breath. Realize that no matter what ideology you have, whatever faith you follow, like you don't know. So just like be open to like follow that, continue to follow that faith. And if it makes you a better person, then I am all for it, no matter what it is, right? But don't tell other people how to live, or tell them about your experiences with what you're doing. Don't try to convert them. That would be my advice, because the amount of people that have come to me aggressively, and it does the opposite. It makes me like not want to be a part of that. And then
because the ego is going to protect and defend.
Yeah. Well, it's like a slate on what I believe in. You're coming at me with that in aggressive manner. It's basically saying like what I believe in is wrong and what you believe in is right.
And if you're more passionate about your belief that you win.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things like collectively like we're team human. Whatever ideology you abide by, we're team human, man. And like everyone's like, we'll never really know, how this all came to be. Maybe we will. I don't know if we can ever figure out a time machine and go deep into the past to figure it all out. But man, it's fun to think about.
Yeah,
it's fun to think about.
Yeah, now forward for me, man. Now
30 minutes, dude.
Not bad.
30 minutes.
Thanks for the chat.
That's an hour.
I know.
Yeah. No, it's good, man. It's good to be back on the mic. So we're gonna try to be disciplined, because we teach people how to be disciplined, and sometimes we're not as good at it as we maybe should be. So Thursdays, right? Thursday's the day.
Yeah, I think we're gonna again, just like all the mind over matter techniques we're trying to provide you. It always starts with us. So every Thursday, unless we're golfing.
It's about to be winter.
I know, but I'm still an optimist, right?
Yeah, I mean, we do live in Michigan, so it totally
we
could
still have an 80 degree.
Yeah, it's still coming.
But otherwise, we'll look forward to giving you all another spoon feeding of enlightenment next Thursday.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it and you did listen to it all the way to this whole hour and 1 minute, please leave us a review and share it up and see if we can get more people to think about life more. Later. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Just want to give a quick shout to our sponsor, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. Make sure you check them out at inflowacademy.com, on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy, and Instagram at Inflow Academy. Mention that you're a listener of the Finding Flow podcast and receive some awesome discounts on our exceptional services over at the Inflow Wellness Academy. These services include personal training through semi-private and private. We offer yoga, massage therapy, laser therapy, group classes, just about anything you need to optimize your life. We'll guide you through nutrition. We'll guide you through supplementation. We'll help you build a strong mind and help you achieve a better state of flow on the day-to-day basis. So make sure you check them out. And once again, thanks for tuning in to the Finding Flow podcast.